people have been trying to push the boundaries of accepting your sexuality in society forever. I mean, you can go all the way back to, a lot of people laugh and snicker at the small penises on the statues from ancient Greek sculptors and stuff like that. But if you go into research, you actually find out that the people in society, it was actually worse for you to have a large penis because it was seen as being brutish and barbaric.
Yeah.
And it was like a symbol, like you were like the Khans or the barbarians across the way that would come. It was a lower class thing. Yeah. They preferred smaller penises and less sexuality, and you could say that, you could say that there's been a very slow but very constant progression of the dissolution of traditional values in society. Values like marriage or having children or, having respect for your body or whatever. And that's all been, the definitions of those things change over time as the definitions of everything change over time. And so I think now what we're seeing is, like you said, an acceleration of it through social media and stuff like that. And it's being filtered out to more and more and younger people, which is what I think the people in the 50s, the conservatives who used to be trying to censor movies, the SEC, and censor video games and stuff like that, they were trying to keep these things from spilling out into just broad society because they were like, look, grown adults can do whatever they want, but we're, like you said, we're thinking of the children. We're thinking of how this being exposed to these things might change the perceptions of people without giving them a chance to understand what's fully going on.
Yeah. You hit a really good point there. You said like it goes back, right?
All the way.
And one of the things that immediately jumped into my head, if you look at a picture of men from say the 20s, 30s, 40s, everyone's wearing a suit and everyone's wearing a hat. Okay? And you look at the women, and everybody's wearing like nice like dresses and things like that mostly, right? Or like longer skirts. But you still had burlesque shows. You still had flappers. You had these modern, or whatever you want to say, whatever word you want to use, women who would expose more of their skin. And that was pushing the boundary at the time. So you have like the back end and the top end, pushing the boundary and dressing it appropriately. And it moves this way along the time frame to where you get to the 90s and men aren't wearing suits and hats, but they're still wearing like baggy jeans and like big shirts. And then women go to exposed midriff and low cut pants. And then you go all the way until now and you have skin tight jeans on men and leggings and bare midriffs and sports bras on women as the normal everyday clothing. So you see that shift moving.
But I would like to also, if you take it back further, like we were saying, it didn't start at like a high where it was like everybody, like, because you do talk about like the statues and stuff, and that was completely acceptable, and that was art to depict somebody fully naked. And then I think about before clothes were even invented, no, not before clothes were invented, but I mean, we've always been trying to cover ourselves. But I mean, like, I think it's more of a bell curve, right? It's like we started off naked and then we grew up to be like, okay, we value being clothed more and kind of concealed. And then that kind of reached a peak where it was like, the more concealed you were, the better, right? The more affluent you were, you had the ability to clothe yourself.
It took you like 2 hours to put a dress on.
Right, you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly, right? So that was like a nobility thing in the sense of look how long and flowy and cool in my dress is.
Look at how much fabric I can afford.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Look at how much fake hair I can put on my head.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. And then now we're starting to see a fall back from that where it's like, okay, now we are trying to, lessen that. And so, I mean, I don't necessarily think I don't know. It's just tough for me. It's hard for me to call it a bad thing. I don't know, because I do get what people are saying. When we started in the 60s and all that, and then now to today, what they're trying to say is like, I started naked, right? Like I am naked. Like sex is a thing. That's what human beings do since the dawn of time, right? So why are we treating it like it's this thing that has to be shamed or shunned or hidden from? But I think, like you were just mentioning the point that you were making, and I think the point that we're going to be trying to make today is it comes back to, again, the kids, right? Yeah. It comes back to the idea of what would you rather be proliferated as the mainstream, right? As like what is socially acceptable and like normal, and then what is you choosing on your own behalf to go outside of that, right? Nowadays, I think it's more like they're influenced at a beginning age, at a very young age, to be that way, to be the burlesque girl, to be the flapper girl, to be that, like, you know, whatever, to sell yourself sexually, to you know, deem your worth in society by the size of your ass and tits, right?
Yeah.
And that, I don't think, is a healthy message to proliferate to young kids who don't know what is the difference, right? So I like you said, I think that it's weird when society shames a woman for choosing that, right? Like, you should not, you know, if she wants to choose that, that's fine. But I don't know about if it's healthy for us to make that the standard.